The letter left on the bench. Emma Carter was 27 years old and worked as a graphic designer in a busy city. Her life looked successful from the outside. She had a good job, a modern apartment, and friends who cared about her. Yet every evening, when she returned home, she felt an emptiness she could not explain. The city was always full of noise, but Emma often felt alone. To clear her mind, she liked to visit a small park near her apartment. There was an old wooden bench beside a lake where she often sat after work. One autumn evening, as golden leaves drifted across the water, Emma noticed something unusual on the bench. A folded white envelope rested beside her favorite spot. Curious, she picked it up. Written on the front were the words, "For the person who needs this today." Emma hesitated before opening it. Inside was a handwritten letter. It said, "Life may not be where you want it to be today, but do not lose hope. The best chapters often begin when you least expect them." The message was simple, but it touched her heart. She smiled and slipped the letter into her bag. The next evening, she returned to the bench. To her surprise, another envelope was waiting. This letter spoke about courage and taking chances. Emma became intrigued. Who was leaving these letters? Every day for the next 2 weeks, a new letter appeared. Some were funny. Some were thoughtful. Others felt deeply personal, as if the writer somehow understood her fears and dreams. Soon, reading the letters became the highlight of her day. One evening, the letter ended with a question. What is one thing you would do if fear did not exist? Emma thought about it for a long time. Then she wrote a reply and left it beneath the bench. The next day, her note was gone. In its place was another letter. "I would travel the world," the stranger wrote. "What about you?" From that day on, a conversation began. Neither person knew the other's identity. They exchanged letters every evening through the old bench by the lake. Emma found herself sharing things she rarely told anyone. She wrote about her dreams, childhood memories, and fears about the future. The stranger shared stories about books, travel, family, and life lessons. Weeks turned into months. Autumn became winter. The park grew quieter, but the letters continued. Emma often wondered who the writer was. She imagined dozens of possibilities. Was it an elderly man? A young woman? Someone she passed every day without realizing? One snowy evening, the stranger wrote, "Have you ever fallen in love?" Emma stared at the question for several minutes. Finally, she wrote, "Yes, once." But it didn't last. The next day, the reply arrived. "I think love is not about finding a perfect person. It's about finding someone whose imperfections feel familiar." Emma, read the sentence 3 times. She could not explain why, but it stayed in her thoughts all day. As winter passed, Emma realized something surprising. She looked forward to the letters more than anything else in her life. She wanted to know who this person was. She wanted to hear their voice and see their face. One evening, she finally wrote, "Should we meet?" The following day, there was no letter. For the first time in months, the bench was empty. Emma felt disappointed. Had she ruined everything? The next evening she returned again. This time an envelope waited. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "I want to meet too," it said. "But I'm afraid." Emma smiled. "Me too," she whispered. They agreed to meet on Valentine's Day at the park. The instructions were simple. Emma would wear a red scarf. The stranger would carry a blue book. As the day approached, Emma became increasingly nervous. She spent hours wondering what would happen. What if they had no connection in real life? What if she was disappointed? What if they were? On Valentine's Day, snow covered the city like a white blanket. Emma arrived at the park early. Her red scarf stood out brightly against the winter landscape. Her heart raced as she looked around. People walked through the park, but none carried a blue book. Minutes passed, then half an hour. Emma's excitement slowly turned into disappointment. Perhaps the stranger had changed their mind. Perhaps they were never coming. Feeling sad, she stood up to leave. Suddenly, she heard a voice behind her. "Emma?" She turned around. Standing a few feet away was a tall young man with dark hair and kind eyes. In his hands was a blue book. Emma stared in surprise. She recognized him immediately. It was Noah, the owner of the small bookstore she visited every few weeks. They had spoken many times about books, but only briefly. Neither had ever imagined the truth. Noah looked equally shocked. Then he laughed softly. "I can't believe it's you." Emma laughed too. The tension disappeared instantly. They sat together on the bench and talked for hours. It felt exactly like reading one of the far letters. Easy, comfortable, natural. They already knew each other's hopes, fears, and dreams. The only difference was that now they could see each other's smiles. In the weeks that followed, their friendship grew quickly. They visited museums, explored hidden cafes, and spent long evenings discussing books. The connection they had built through letters became even stronger in person. One evening, while walking beside the lake where everything had begun, Noah stopped. The city lights reflected beautifully on the water. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. Emma nodded. Noah smiled nervously. "I think I started falling in love with you long before we met." Emma felt her heart beat faster. She smiled. "I think I did too." Noah took her hand gently. The moment felt simple, yet perfect. Months later, Emma discovered that happiness often arrives in unexpected ways. Sometimes it arrives through grand gestures. Sometimes it arrives through chance meetings. And sometimes it arrives through a handwritten letter left on an old wooden bench beside a lake. Years later, whenever someone asked how they met, Emma and Noah always smiled. Most people expected a dramatic story. Instead, they would explain that their love began with a single letter and a simple act of kindness. Because sometimes the smallest moments create the most beautiful love stories.